Tell us a bit about, you've been studying world religions and spiritual paths for a long time.
Absolutely.
And the first time I officially reached out to you and your team and everyone, which was a few years back now, was because I saw that you'd been reading the Gita.
Yeah.
And the Gita was obviously the book that I read and studied so deeply and fell in love with. And after having studied world religions myself too, and I've had beautiful experiences reading the Bible and the Quran and the Gita. And so when I saw you talking about it when you were in India, I was just like, wow, like this is amazing. Like I'm already a huge fan. I love Will Smith. Like how is Will reading the Gita? I was like, how did that even happen? And then when I got to know you and Jada and spoke to the family, I realized that you'd taken on a challenge to like study a world religion every year. And tell us about that and what you learned along the way. What were some of the traditions that stood out in your journey and what did you learn from them, whether it was the Kabbalah or even Scientology, all those, because you've shared so many beautiful lessons with me from what you've studied.
Yeah.
And I'd love to pass them on.
So what was, I guess probably in the first 10 years of our marriage, that was me and Jada's bonding, right? So every year we would pick a spiritual tradition and we would study it all the way through.
How did you even start doing that? Like, because when I heard you did that, I think Jada told me first, and when I heard you did that, I was just like, it just took me aback because you don't come across that all the time. And I was lucky enough to study world religions. My father started encouraging me when I was about 14 to start reading spiritual books. And I dated a Muslim girl who asked me to read the Quran. That's how I read the Quran, which was a wonderful experience in my life at 16. I read the Bible because we would celebrate Christmas and I'd feel guilty that we celebrated Christmas, but I hadn't read the Bible.
Oh, right.
So I started going to church on Christmas and then reading about Christ and the Bible, and I just absolutely fell in love with the scripture. And then I was just reading so many different books. And finally I came back to the Gita, which was the book I was brought up with. But yeah, tell me about even why you and Jada decided to do that.
So I don't even know how it developed as a thing. I know when we got married, we were trying to decide, what church we were going to get married, and were we going to get married in Baltimore or Philly, and who was going to be the priest, and so Gammy had a different religious background than Gigi, so we were trying to figure all of that kind of stuff out, and Jada didn't want to do any of that. Jada wanted for she and I to go to a mountain, and, pledge our love and devotion to one another, to God, without, she felt like we weren't going to adhere to this specific religious tradition. We would just be picking it for her mother or my grandmother or something to try to figure that out. So I think the discussion about the religious background we would raise our children in is what came up when we first got married. And she grew up in a thing called the Ethical Society in Baltimore, and they would honor the different religions. And my background, I grew up, I went to a Baptist church. I went to a Catholic school. And somewhere in that first decade of our marriage, we were like, oh, wouldn't it be hot if we could say that we had read cover to cover all of the major holy books. And we started with the Bible, and I just remember seeing her Bible was marked. You know how I do my books now. You see how all my books are highlighted all the way through. And, she completed the entire Bible, 7 months before me. Right? So now it's on, right? So then when it came time for the Quran, I was like, I wanted to win. Yeah. Right? But, so we would take a year and we would study all of these traditions as a, really as a way of the two of us bonding spiritually and intellectually around the concepts. And, we went through Kabbalah and, Scientology. And really what was happening is every time I would meet someone who was of a different tradition, I would allow that person to introduce me to what their tradition was. And then I did Ali, and so we circled back around to the Quran during that time. But we really just, we love the idea of spirituality and the study of the love of God. And we don't necessarily believe in organized religion. We believe that the organizations kind of jump ahead of the spirituality. The Church of Christ is very different than Christ. The steps that Christ actually walked. So we started to notice those kinds of differences, and we really just wanted to find the truth. What is the truth? And you see how my whole family dives in. The kids are doing it now, with the Gita, and it's really just trying to find our way, in this world.
Yeah, and I love that, and I was so fascinated by that myself because I saw that within myself, and so when I saw it with you and the family, I was so drawn to that.